And I'm actually glad Katie's not here today because I'm going to be mentioning Jaime Lannister from Song of Ice and Fire enough times she'd get alcohol poisoning.
He made this joke in our Discord earlier, so just in case you were wondering if you were getting fresh material.
Oh my god, you son of a... You snitched on me. I'm
I
always so
did.
careful to say, and I've said this before, but this time I was like, well, but who would know?
Who
And
would know?
you.
Me, the loudmouth. And welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. It's me, your host, Maria. And with me today is my ruggedly handsome co-host, William.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm handsome. I was gonna say so ugly. No, so rugged.
No.
And the book we're doing today is The Queen of Attolia by Whalen Turner, as the audiobook
Wow.
narrator pronounces it. This is a sequel to The Thief, but you don't really need to have read that book for this one, and I actually argue this book is better without having read that one. What's the book about before we get started, Maria?
Okay, so this book is set in a ancient Greek-esque, or I want to say like Middle Greek-esque. It's not exactly like ancient Greece, but like warring city-states, with gods that semi-mirror some of the Greek pantheon, but are different. And it is about a couple of warring nations, one of which is a nation named Eddis, that has a real down-to-earth, chill queen whose cousin and is her thief. It's a position.
Queen's Thief is a position at court, like
Court,
Minister
yeah.
of War type of thing.
And he's a heckin' thiefy boy. He's the main character from the book The Thief. Go figure. And he's a real good thiefy boy and apparently a deterrent for war because he's so good at sneaking, he might murder you in your sleep if you are an opposing monarch. So don't fuck with Eddis. And this story is about him after a thing happens to him and his country goes to war with the countries around it. And
it happens within the first two chapters.
Yeah.
So basically what I would say is that one of the big elements is it starts off with him running from the Queen of Attolia. Oh, they said the thing. Who he's been sneaking around the castle of and who is not a friend of Eddis. And then she lops off his arm. And it's about him kind of dealing... I want to say it's kind of like about him dealing with that, but it's not. The book has a lot of problems. The main one being it's a too many things. The author kept jumping from boat to boat. And like she's very good at writing, but it's very noticeable that we're jumping boat to boat here. And that was kind of my problem with the book. Overall, though, I very much enjoyed it. She's a very good writer. The pace is so much better than so many other books we've read just by virtue of being shorter. I didn't find Jen as annoying, that's the thief's name, as some people who hated him, who this was their personal Patroclus. I didn't hate him that much. I actually thought he got better towards the end of the book when he actually had more personality than at the beginning. He was a little bit more of a messy bitch, which I just is a character archetype I find funny.
I enjoyed that too.
And the Queen of Attolia herself is an excellent character. She's great. This book really succeeds in the grace notes and has trouble in the broad strokes. I'm mixing metaphors because one of those is music and one of those is art, but it's a melange.
I have to agree with Will. I overall enjoyed this book, but a lot of my problems... So it's really funny. Going into this book, I thought like a lot of my problems from the first book would be mainly gone. And they're still here. They work better, but they are still problems. And I'm going to talk about them. Don't you fucking worry. And in the first book, anyone who watched that video will know I did not like Jen. I did not like his little... And the big problem was the book was trying to do the ha, we're hiding shit from you in a first-person narration, which was just the dumbest thing I dealt with, which just... It brought out the contrarian in me, where I was just like, shut the fuck up! And so I liked Jen more in this book in the last half. I liked him a little bit in the beginning, and then there's a little period where I was just like, oh, come on. And then the author tried to do the thing where she's like, do you know what's going on? And I'm like, yes, I know what's going on. Stop pretending I don't. This author loves to be like, ooh, what's
Yeah, it's really funny.
happening? And then you're like, I know what's happening, but it works so much better in third person, and it feels more like a campsite storyteller spinning a tale and leaving you hints. So, like, the children will be shocked, but the adults are like, oh, we know where
I
this is
saw it
going.
coming.
And it works so much better in third person than it did in first person, but I agree with Will. The pace on this is much better. It does very much suffer from the too many things. And similar to the first book, all the interesting stuff happens in the last third. And I wish that was the majority of the book. The last third is so fun. And I was like, this is so much better than everything else we've been fucking dealing with. Why wasn't this 2/3 of the book? I don't understand why she keeps doing this to me. Whalen Turner, are you okay? Why do you keep hiding it?
I usually dislike that whole Banner versus Pantster thing, but I do think she kind of just writes her books one way through, and she's talented enough that it kind of works. But it means that there's like not a, again, the structure of this book is real odd because the ending is so much better, and even then, the final climax of the book is great, and then like the book keeps going for like an hour with another semi-climax, like a falling action climax, and it doesn't quite work, and then the themes are just real all over the place. So yeah, and she does love her like, did you see what I did there? Haha, kind of thing. One thing is that this book jumps in perspective a lot more than the first book did, and I actually think that's good. There's an economy of storytelling that's really nice in how she does that.
I completely agree.
But overall, I enjoyed it. Like this was a book I didn't really want to put down while I was reading it, which is a triumph. Also, by the way, guys, you should like and subscribe. My mother has been bothering me for a week about saying that early in the video. So we also have a Patreon. This is a book club pick where you, if you join the book club tier, you get to read along with us. This was a middle one, a mid-month book, which I get to pick. But usually you guys get to pick them at the end of the month. And also soon we're going to be doing a special Rage Reads book club where we pick out bad books and read those. But back to this book, because again, there was actually a lot of interesting discussion in the channel for it on our Discord. Again, a member book of our Patreon about it. I think this book also revolves a lot around whether you like Jen or not, because the book has such a weird structure where like you have to kind of like him at the beginning for you to care about what's happening for the first fourth, and then stuff happens and it moves away from him for a while, and then it moves back towards him right at the end. And so like the focus is kind of all over the place, and it's not a massive problem, but if you don't like Jen, it's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like you're just not going to bounce back. If you don't like Eugenides as a character, it's even if you like everything else around the book, it's going to become a painful experience. I think of our darling Lindbergh, who painfully did not like Jen, chose violence at a couple points, and so
It's so funny.
It was hysterical. I loved reading a small tiny baby pitch for our Discord. It's just such a great place. There's such a like fun atmosphere and going back and forth, and even if two people are on opposite sides of like an liking or disliking a book, it's still really like it's a good time. Join. What are you doing? Why haven't you joined already? The point is, if Jen is going to be a problem, it's almost impossible to recover, and you're not going to finish this book and be like, gee willikers, I want to know what happens to Jen next. Like you're just going to be like, good, I hope he dies. I assume.
Paraphrasing Lindbergh.
Yeah.
Who wanted much worse things.
For me, I ended it and I was like, I'm actually way more interested in the third book after finishing this than I was in reading the second book after finishing the first one. And part of that is there's a direct, like, continuity thing. Like, you know how that book is going to start and where it's going to start, where you finish The Thief and you're like, I have no idea what the second book is even remotely going to be about, and any guess you might have had at the end of that, it would not be what actually happens in this book.
It actually feels, I think she wrote this like 4 years after she wrote The Thief, and it does feel very like disconnect, kind of like, because even she kind of retcons a few things that Jen would have thought about in his POV in that book when he met the Queen of Attolia for a minute. And so like it really feels like she just liked the character who was on screen for a minute in the the Thief,
The
and was
thief.
like, oh, okay, I'm going to expand her role in a very weird way. But I'm going to expand her role. I like her. There's like interesting themes there too about ruling and womanhood and stuff that I think she really got enamored with, which is not a bad way of writing, but you really should go back and edit things.
Will's right. It feels more like it. The first one was like just an unrelated short story that ended up as a novel that like should have been like a little footnote.
It feels a lot like a writing exercise is what I said in terms of trying to
Yeah.
get into Jen's point of view and like the world a little bit. And you can tell because they keep telling each other mythology that isn't relevant. But if you're writing the world, it's nice to have that flavor text essentially. But do you want to get started with the plot? How does this book start?
Let's jump in. So this book starts with much more, and I'm gonna say this, it starts with much more initial action than the thief does. The thief is just a slow going boy, and we're gonna have a slow going part in this, but we start in an action scene, which is our boy Eugenides, Jen, also in this first chapter, just the thief. This book loves to be like, I wonder who, I wonder what's happening. Like, and it's just, I don't know what the author's doing. And I have to remind myself this was written for children to be like, I wonder if it could be another thief. Of course it's not another thief. It's fucking Jen.
I will say very quickly before we go on, I think that, and I forgot to mention this, that is one of the problems with this book is that it's so well written that you forget it's young adult until certain plot events happen. And then you're like, that was a little weird and immature, like as a novel, and not even the characters, just like the novel events. And so it drags it down. And I think it's almost stuck in a little bit of a limbo.
And I had that at multiple points. I had to remind myself, like, especially like with the negotiations of like the politics and like the marriage negotiation. At some point, I was like, "This is a children's book. Like, this is for like I would
Ma'am,
say,
this is the Wendy's.
yeah, like what are we doing?" And it's so funny because I can see what this book would have been if it had been written for adults, a la like a Martin. And like you're almost like, what? This is why. But I get it. Like the kids who like the 6th to like 10th graders, I think is the sweet spot for this book. Like I think that's, and I say that with zero like it's free. Like that's not what I'm saying. I was once a nerdy child who fucking voraciously read, and I think young Maria would have ate the shit out of this book. Like
I will say another thing I should have mentioned and just forgot to is that I had originally read The Thief as a child and really liked it. And then I read this book when it came out and I was like, oh, I don't like this. The tone is totally different than The Thief. It's so much starker and darker, and I didn't like Jen because I like Jen being kind of a dramatic bitch about being dirty. Like that's who I liked. And he's not really like that in this book as much. And so I actually liked this book more upon reading it now than I did then, which I think is kind of an interesting contrast, especially with Jen's moping. I think I'm much, when you're a kid, you identify with the teenage characters and want them to be cool. And now as an adult, I'm like, stupid teenagers. It's okay.
Yeah,
I understand. You're just going to make dumb decisions. But go ahead and keep going with the plot. We got Jen. He's a thieving. They're hunting him through the palace of Attolia. He's been there for a while. This is his 3rd time. He's like, oh shit, maybe they're going to get me this time, but I'm a super cool thief. And like Maria said, I thought this was very engaging. I thought it was a very good way to start the book.
And it tells you a couple things, like Will said, that this is his 3rd time, and that he intimately knows the passages and all these secret tunnels in this palace, and that his grandfather showed him. And you're like, were you and your grandfather just like tromping about this place when you were young? Yes, the answer to that is yes.
You won't find this out till the end of the book, but yes.
But it lays the seeds here, and you don't know why he's there or what he's doing, but he's being now hunted, and like there's this part where he's running through the olive groves, and he's like, I gotta get to the river. Once I get to the river, the dogs will be off my scent. And then he smacks into something, just head on, smacks in, and you're like, what the fuck? There's a board nailed between 2 trees, and you're like, who the fuck knew that he would be coming? Like, and there's a board, what's happening? And then the dogs get him, and he's captured by the Queen of Attolia, and then the Odyssean ambassadors are like, don't harm him, they'll give you money.
Odysseans are from Eddis.
Yes,
like we'll use those interchangeably, but yeah, those are the Eddis people.
So it's the Odysseans, the Attolians, and then we're gonna have the Medeans called the Mede,
who are like And also just every annoying stereotype about Turkish Middle Eastern
I
people.
know. Why?
I was like,
Why?
right down to the not liking women very much thing.
And the oil, the beard oiling. Ugh.
Guys, should I beat oil? Leave a comment down below if you think I should do
Yes,
like a
everyone who
forked.
have a
Oh, I
beard
could do like a forked beard. Like, oh, hello,
in
Maria.
general, beard oil is healthy for your beards. Like, put
There was a
beard
point
in or
actually in the book where
conditioner.
they're like, oh, he was young and gawky looking and he had, a unibrow. And I'm like, actually, in the Mediterranean world, a unibrow is a sign of virility. So she did not do her research.
And what's happening is once the Queen of Attis figures out the Queen of Attolia is known for her really brutal killings and like torturous deaths, and so the Odysseans are like, our only choice is to get her to kill him cleanly and quickly, and so they try goading her, and she's like about to do it. She's like, hang him, just be done. And then the Medish, he's not the Medish, the Median ambassador, is like, it sounds like she's trying to make you kill him quickly, rather than your normal forms of killing. And she's like, oh, snap, you're right. I'm being goaded. Thanks, bro. And she's like, okay, I gotta do something. Because she knows he's been in and out of her castle multiple times. And she's like, this guy gives me the creeps. He keeps fucking around and he's dangerous. We already, like, everyone, the king of Sunis, which is a nation from the first book, also is held at bay by fear of Eugenides coming in and killing him or doing shit. So like everybody's playing nice, and so she cuts his hand off, which is something that would cripple him in his thieving, and also making him a cripple in her eyes, and
Disabled.
and
Differently abled.
would actively like torture him. He's very proud. One of the things is he's a cocky ass motherfucker.
And that's one of the things that it's actually kind of clever because it's like they kind of put her in a political corner and this is her way out, and that this is like an ancient way of dealing with thieves. So like it's allowed, like it's not a full insult. I liked that a little bit. One thing Megan Whalen Turner does is that she really does not give Jen any dignity in how scared he is. In terms of like, he is fucking terrified of losing his arm and of what's going to happen to him. And I liked that as a choice because it's ugly. It's, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want our action heroes to worry, to be like, oh, we want them to face torture, like, defiant, but like,
with a brave face.
yeah, exactly. But like, no, we're all going to be like, what the fuck? I want to get at, like, you know what I mean? And so I did kind of like that ugliness. And you are in Attolia's head during some of this. And she, there is a very nice line where she's a very nuanced character in that she has a precarious position because, like, you get the sense that her country is ruled by barons who are powerful, and they did not A, want her to have central power, and B, do not like that she's a woman doing it, and also she's kind of disrupting the social order a little bit. And so there's a sense that, like, oh, she can't just her actions as a monarch are not only her own, she has political considerations to take into account, or political ramifications to take into consideration. Also another way you could say that. And so that I kind of liked. It's a very deft hand. The book is not like, this is not a rice ant. This is not going to be a rice ant where it's like, oh, he does terrible things, but actually he is sweetest boy, as Maria says, or bestest boy. This is a book where it's like, from the beginning, you understand that she is kind of dealing with a politically tricky situation and she has to be callous at times.
And I think it was really well done. It feels like a move that gets what she needs out of the way without while still sending a message. And I also agree as well, the scene where his reaction to realizing his hand, because like she's just sitting in a room in like a real chill, like laid back dress, and you're like, what's happening here? And the arms of the chair are really long. And then he realizes when he sees the ties on it, what's happening. And you almost realize like a second behind him what's about to, or at least I did, a second behind him what's about to happen. And his reaction is just real. Like Will said, it's really nice to see a character, especially one who has been cocky, whiny shit, have this like moment of like legit emotion. And she
Yeah, she cuts off his arm Bam. And he like goes to the just the prisons and is like not doing well. And she comes and visits him and is like, oh, he's so young. And this will start off in the book a weird thing where you don't know what age Jen is, and then it keeps getting retconned how old he is. Like by the end of this book, he will have gone through a growth spurt from this point to that point, and I was like, "Oh wow, you're much younger than I thought. I thought you were in your 20s. Apparently, you were like 10 in The Thief or something. Like, what age is he?" And it makes it hard to read him sometimes.
Yeah, it really is, because the idea I got that he was 19 by the end of this book, and that he had been like 16, 17. Like he'd been 16 in The Thief, 17 at the start of this book, and 19 by the end, which is what I imagined. Because especially given the like he had his last growth spurt and blah, 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 blah. Like,
And it's one of these things where it's like, again, it's like Six of Crows, where it's like they have this tragic book backstory, which canonically could only have happened about a year or two ago. Like, how did he get all this training from his grandfather? His grandfather can't have been dead that long. So it creates a timeline that like I just would have liked. I don't know if she did this on purpose or if this was like a YA concession. I get kind of the sense that a lot of this book was a YA concession in terms of how she wrote it. But yes, so and the Queen of Attolia is like, oh, he's so young. What have I done? But again, there's like a nice nuance to it where she's strong but also like somewhat sympathetic to this man she has maimed. And then we cut to the Queen of Eddis, who is the kind of fugly cousin of Jen that everyone likes. I referred to her, though I cut it in the last video, as the hot cousin, and you guys were like, what? I only subscribe to modern standards of beauty. And I was like, she's beautiful because of her smile. And you guys were like, women can't be beautiful for reasons that aren't physical.
No.
That was how it went.
That's not at all how it went.
And she is pissed because apparently she sent Jen to do this, but it's never really explained why she sent him to do this.
Yeah, there's the idea that she had been sending him into Attolia a couple of times, and after the last time she sent him, he came back and he was like, yo, Attolia's getting squirrely. I think we should put some space between me going again. And Addis was like, nah, this is our moment. Let's go now. And I'm not sure as well, because at this point, no one is at war. No one seems to be going to war. I don't understand.
I thought it was going to be revealed later, like, oh, he needed to get a magic scroll or something.
That's exactly what I thought. Like, he was looking for a specific thing, or they suspected that, or that it was and this would have been a really easy one. They knew that the Median ambassador was there, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. You know? That's a really easy, Chris M says, I think
he was supposed to learn what treaties Attolia had with Mead. Maybe. It was not clear to me, and Maria, who has much better memory, it was not clear to her, so I defer to her as the judgment on this. We should also explain about the Meads. The Meads are Turk analogs who live on a different continent who want to invade, and they have a lot of money and forked beards. They also fight in a phalanx during the time of cannons. This book has a very weird understanding of how warfare works, but we're not going to get into that.
That's the other thing we should mention. I said it was like city-states ancient Greece, but they have guns and cannons. It's like the time, like the way this is.
Why do they have shields if there are guns? Guns are like, okay. Personally, I think they should have had a tercio, pike and shot type formation. Those are always very cool and underrated, but we won't get into that. And Eddis, again, very attractive, but not in a way Maria would agree with, is like, oh, I am so, yeah, but you don't think she's pretty. So
I wouldn't describe her as the hot. I would describe her as the enchanting and the
intriguing, charming, and just like disarming. Like, she's just so chill. She disarms people, and she has a great smile that makes apparently the King of Sunis just one smile, and he was. I would have liked it so much more if it was like, yeah, he got a portrait of her and the portrait is hot. Because like that happened to Henry V. Yeah, where like they sent him a portrait and then she showed up and he's like, she's German and kind of tubby. Like, what is this?
What happened?
I forget which of his wives that was. I think it was like number 4. Anyway, so she's really pissed. She's very mad. She's like, "Get me my thief back." Jen goes back. He's real sick. And like when he shows up, his dad. So there's a thing where like he didn't want to join the army, so his dad's always been like a little disappointed in him. And the one thing is, I really like the relationship with his dad. Like it's very
Yes.
understated, but I just think it's very cute how his dad is a complete hard ass and yet clearly still likes him and is still like invested
I
in him.
wish this was more at front. One of the things this book does really well is the smaller character interactions and character relationships. And I really wish we'd spent less time on the like, let me narrate to you what has happened politically and war-wise for the past little while, and spend more time. Because one of my biggest complaints, and I forgot to mention this before about this book, is that so much happens not in scene. A lot of this book is summarizing to you what just happened,
like
or the
that.
connective tissue between. Because you'll have a scene, and then there'll be like connective tissue of what has been happening before you get to this scene, and before you get to this scene, and so it's just it's part of this is because it's jumping around to different point of views and then has to fill in the context. But you'll have like a scene that is literally like a page and a half with one set of characters, and then you fuck off and you're not going to hear from them again
See,
for a while.
I liked that because I'm more tolerant of like over narration than Maria, and also it's a little military history, and that's my favorite thing in the
Yes.
world. So I was like, ooh, we're getting things. Also, Lindbergh says Anne of Cleves. I was right. That's what I thought in my head. I just didn't say it out loud. And she said after Jane Seymour died in childbirth, so forth. I was right because it goes Catherine of Aragon, not Catherine of Aragon, whatever the Spanish one was, who's clearly the best. Then there's Anne Boleyn, who's complicated, but people don't think is good, but I think there's something interesting there. Then Jane Seymour, who was the saint and died in childbirth and was the only one who gave him a son, I think. Anne of Cleves, who also got away alive because they just annulled it or whatever. He never slept with her. Then there's the young one, and then I think there's the one who outlasts him. So I watched the documentary when I was a kid, and I always thought it was really interesting. I'm not getting this from that Tudors show, which is fucking awful.
Will likes history, guys. Just in case you didn't know, like, what have you been doing? Um, but yeah, so and the thing is, I liked the way it was written, but the problem for me is I wanted more focus on the little characters themselves, especially because like I love the relationship between Jen and his dad, and it is on page so little. It's just it's. And then, like, there's also this great part where Jen's mad at his cousin, the queen, for a period of time, and we don't get any scenes with the two of them. There's no dynamics. We don't get her point of view to see how she's feeling about it. This book does that thing where it really is just narrating what is happening in the moment, and we're not getting a lot of the internality of the characters. You get a little bit for the Queen of Etis and a little bit for the Queen of Attolia, where you kind of get what their thoughts are and what's happening in their brain in the moment that it's looking at. But a lot of times this book will literally just describe the physical scene that is happening like you're watching a movie, and I think it suffers a little bit because of that, because you're lacking some of that.
I did like the distance tone because I like when books are like, ooh, real literature. But I do think it also hurts with Jen because Jen doesn't actually do a bunch of interactions with people right until the end of the book, and then you get like a little bit more of like, oh, this was his character all the time, but it just was compressed. And it also I think makes it a little hard to care what's happening to him, at least for me. Also, by the way, I was correct. Catherine of Aragon, and then who was married to his brother, and I think was the only one of his wives he ever really respected because she was older than him. Henry V is great because it's or not Henry V, no, yeah, the fourth. I don't know. He's interesting because it's both very interesting how he started out young and fit and then got fat as he got older. And it's sort of like it's God literally being like, hey, here's a metaphor for fat phobia, guys. And then also there's the whole idea of like the tyrant king and that, no, this is why kings really aren't a great idea because they have too much power. It's tyrannical. And then, of course, there's his relationship with women, which you get C7 versions of. And that's very interesting. Again, the Tudor show is such utter crap. It's like sub Game of Thrones. And you guys know how harsh that is.
Yeah, no, it's way worse. I think I watched an episode and I was like, what is this? And part of it is like the costuming is so bad. Like it's so bad. This book sometimes lacks description in a way that a lot of the ideas that this is in Greece is or in a Grecian-esque setting is the mythology, the words used, the descriptions, like the calling, these certain palace buildings a megaron and stuff like that. Unfortunately, outside of some clothing description, and this was much better in The Thief. Like, I remember when they were describing the dresses and stuff in The Thief, I was like, oh wow, I can clearly, and this is a little bare.
Yeah, and like in The Thief, there was a lot of descriptions of food, which got tiring after a certain point, but did help ground you in the characters a
Yeah.
little bit. So yeah, it's a little bit. I think one of our patrons in their final thoughts said it's a little white room syndrome. Um, Again, I prefer that and the plot moving quickly to the plot moving slowly. Like just I really appreciated the alacrity with which this book moved through its story. And so if that's a trade, I don't actually think it's a trade off. Like 5 sentences throughout the book is not gonna
Yes.
drastically increase the time. But yeah, no, it's true. It has a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And also the cultures don't really feel very distinct. They all feel like vaguely Grecian. That's
Yeah.
it. It's not even like
And
an Athens, Spartans, Rhodes kind of distinction.
that was going to be the other thing I was going to discuss is Soonest as they just people on the ground versus Edis. The only thing you get out of the Odysseans is they are like hardy mountain people, like that apparently use winter really well. And it's not even like, oh, like the Attolians feel like seafarers and like all of their like traits
Hmm.
all like this, and as soon as is doing like even from that level, and they do talk about like the economic differences between them in the first book, but it doesn't feel as distinct as it should be, especially given that this is a political book mainly. Anyway, continuing with the plot. Uh he goes back to Edis and he's like, oh no, he has a fever. He's got some infections. And the head physician is like, he's got a weird infection in his eye. It could be this one specific one that he could lose his eyesight. And he's like, just kill me. I don't want to be blind and have one arm. And like, calm down,
Well,
buddy.
and specifically, he also mentions that, like, do you have, when you go to the afterlife, do you go as you died? And, like, I don't want to be blind for all of eternity, which I really liked. It's a very nice cultural detail that people actually kind of believe in their gods. And in this case, Jen in the first book met the gods. And so, like, he does kind of believe in it. We'll talk about how poor the god theme is in this book, but I did like this as a moment. It felt very real.
And one of those, like, when you're it felt like a, for this world, a existential horror, like an existential fear that like that dread. Um, but it turns out it's not. It's just the equivalent of pink eye. He's okay, and he's like, thus starts sad sack. Like
Mopey.
Estra Espressi Depressi Eugenides.
Jen.
And because he's just like, what am I gonna do if I can't be a thief? And like his first thought is like, I'll just become a scholar, so I have to learn how to write with my left hand, because he is in a lot of ways, he had always been a bit ambidextrous because of his grandfather's training, making sure he could do stuff, but like that didn't go past like just thieving skills. And so he had to learn how to write, and he was like, I'm gonna go to the university far away and I'll just become a scholar and that's how I can be useful. And they're like, no. It's his dad and the queen specifically are like, no. And his dad's like, it wasn't a bad idea, but no.
Well, okay, all right, hold on. We have to give a sense of the time. Like the first fourth of this book is Jen just being mope, and again, he lost his arm. It's fine. It's understandable. But he lost his arm, and so he's been mopey about it. And like it's hard to get out of bed, and like he doesn't want to go to like court functions and stuff. I'm gonna talk in a little bit about and I'm actually glad Katie's not here today because I'm gonna be mentioning Jaime Lannister from Song of Ice and Fire enough times she'd get alcohol poisoning.
He made this joke in our Discord earlier, so just in case you were wondering if you were getting fresh material.
Oh my god, you son of a bitch. You snitched on me. I'm
I
always so
did.
careful to say, and I've said this before, but this time I was like, well, but who would know?
Who
And
would know?
you.
Me, the loudmouth.
In terms of like, he loses his arm, but it's really not as impactful as it should be. A lot of his character development should be happening in this first fourth, and it isn't. He's just mopey. And then the Magus from the first book returns. And the Magus is, I just love his voice. For some reason, I always imagined him as like kind of a very plump character, but in the way the narrator does his voice, he sounds so great. I miss a little bit how he was in the first book, because in the first book, he was so smug all the time, and I loved that. And in this one, he's like a little less smug, and he's a little bit more outplayed by Jen. But he shows up and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And Jen's like, I'm moping. And he's like, well, there's a war on. You know that, right? And Jen's like, no. Even though he's been going to court functions, he somehow didn't pick this up. And he's like, yeah, no, Edis went to war for you over this whole getting your arm cut off thing. And he's like, why did nobody tell me? Brr, brr, brr. And then the Magus is like, okay, stop whining. Again, the Magus is really funny.
He also has a conversation where he asks Edis that exact question, because again, we just refer to the queens as their countries for most of this book for some reason. But he asks Edis that exact question, and she was like, yeah, all the signs were there, buddy. You just didn't want to know. And you're like...
And then she's like, yeah, and then he goes to talk to the gods, and off screen, the gods tell him to stop moping, like quite literally. They say, like, stop whining or something like that. Again, we'll talk about his relationship with the gods. So he talks with Edis, and Edis is like, guy, like, we're not doing well. There's this whole thing about, like, it doesn't make any sense. Edis occupies a strategic pass between Attolia and Sunis, and it just does not make sense that it is a country that's tiny that controls like so many resources. Like, it would have been subsumed by one of the other countries by this point, either through marriage or conquest. And like that kind of bothered me the whole book. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, you know, they control Attolia's water, and at one point they just like completely screwed over like 25% of their crops. And it's like, if they had that much power, somebody would have taken them over before this, especially because like now they have cannons to defend themselves, but they didn't. Again, this book, the politicking and military history of it is fun, but it doesn't actually make a ton of sense. Which, like, you know, I'm increasingly realizing that only I, who read actual military historians, know the truth of war, and everybody else is always going to be an amateur. And she's like, yeah, we're not doing good. They're going to take it over. As soon as we're going to be attacked from both sides. And Jen is like, okay, here's what I'll do. And okay, so he just he just got out of being mopey. He doesn't have an arm. He's like, I can't be a thief ever again. The next thing that happens is that he goes to Sunis and blows up all their warships. Like, because he had like a team with him of people to do it, and he steals the Magus back. You comment on this before I start talking about Jaime Lannister.
The first thing is that there actually is a chunk of time. This is one of those moments where the author is like, I wonder what's happening. Because all of those scenes happen with where Jen finds out this war is happening from the Magus. The Magus fucks back off to Sunis, and then he confronts the Queen of Edis. They have a big old fight, and then they have a falling out. The Queen of Edis is no longer going to visit him, and he is no longer coming out for dinners with the rest of the court. And he's just in his room. People are bringing him food, taking away empty plates.
No. Only his doctor is coming in.
Yes, only his doctor. And bringing food and stuff. And that's it. And this is months. And so the book is like, he's just moping. He's just doing a big old mope. He found out his kingdom was at war. His queen got into a big old fight over him, and he just went and did a heckin' mope. And you're like, oh no, he's training. He's getting himself back up to snuff. He's getting his shit together, and he's gonna do something. And you're just waiting for the book to be like, okay, just show me what he's gonna do. Like, I know, Eugenides went, like, the gods yelled at him. He found out they were at war. The Magus called him out on his shit. Jen's back, baby. And what sucks is because we were not actually, like, getting enough internality and we're not close enough to Jen, having the moment where he finally goes, okay, I need to snap out of this a little bit, it happens off screen. Like, again, as Will said, he tells them he went to talk to the gods, and then the gods were like, buddy, what's happening? And it happens off, like, in summary. He just tells them this happens. And so you don't get that emotional moment of what is happening. And you don't get an emotional moment of him finding out, like, he's angry that his country has gone to war, but we don't get a description of the emotions of what's happening. And it's just to the detriment, because then...
So this is basic writing theory, is that you want to be with characters in those moments of emotion because it helps you bond with the character. It helps you when you are. There are certain things as humans that we naturally kind of just do. So, like for example, eating with somebody that makes us like them more, just in terms of like oxytocin and stuff. Playing with your children, if you're male, I was just reading a study about it, makes you and the child high, essentially. If you've been, the longer you think you know somebody, the more you trust them inherently. And one a good trick to do this is to take them to lots of places, because that tricks their brain into thinking that you've been there, you know them in a lot of situations. Going through somebody in a difficult time is the best way of or is one of the best ways to make you identify with the character and be on their side. And so when you skip those scenes, it's like, well, but who is Jen? I'm not actually that invested in him. Like him being with him when his arm was cut off, that was effective. That made me not like Attolia. But like this is like, well, he's not even there. So what are we doing?
And especially when his entire training montage that you imagine happened between him being like, I can barely do anything, and him being angry about, because like at some point the queen sends this guy who deals with prosthetics, and it's like a wooden hand, or you can have a hook. Like, what do you want, buddy? And he's like, none of the above. Like he's a big old, why would you do this about it? And then we go from that to him being back on the ball, you know? And I'm like, no. No.
The book just jumps to a different boat and is like, okay, Jen's doing stuff in the background. Okay, so Song of Ice and Fire. Everybody knows by now, spoiler alert, that Jaime Lannister, a person who is semi an antagonist but also a viewpoint character, loses his hand at one point. And the thing about it is, before this, the only way he was defined was as a master swordsman. This is brought up so many times. A lot of people want to kill him. They can't. He's too good at fighting. He killed the king because, well, not because he was good at fighting, but he killed the previous king. The only value he has to his sister is the fact that he exemplifies a kind of masculinity she cannot as a woman. And so that's part of his sword hand. His father only really likes him because he's good at fighting. So when he loses his hand at the beginning of the third book, it is a massive thing. It is... We are with him as through like a fever dream. He is forced to march with his hand cut off, and he's going in and out of time and space. And he's thinking about, and what cutting off his hand does through that part and through the rest of the arc of the book is make him go, okay, who am I? Why did I end up like this? Do I have to keep being this person? As one point he points out, like, you know, the hand I killed the king with is now gone. Do I still have to be the king slayer? You know, like, who am I if I'm not this perfect knight? And he has to adapt. He tries to learn how to fight with his other hand and is terrible at it. And it's really funny. So he can no longer fight battles on his own. So sometimes he has to bluff his way through situations, or he has to use different tools to get there. And in having to adapt the methods of how he interacts with the world, he himself changes. Jen loses his hand, immediately does a great heist. And it's like, what was the point of this? There is a value in the character is disabled and learns that, no, they're still cool and can do things. But it's a bit like it does cheapen it a little bit, because it's like, well, no, you have to find new ways to do what you used to do. And this is not really used with Jen. It's not like before this he was a loner and now he's having to learn to work in a team. Like, that's not what it is. That's not how he...
The book is going to try to tell you that that's what's happening.
Yeah, it does do that every once in a while. And you're like... Okay, fine, but could you show this on page, please? No? Too much work? Oh, okay, let's go to talking about which islands they took. I did like that part, though. I like military.
Yeah, I know you did. As I was reading it, I was like, Will's in his fucking... like, I'm sitting here like, what? No, I don't... I know Jen is doing, like, cool training stuff and learning how to deal with... Because, like, that's the thing, is his entire time of learning how to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have this arm... or this hand, we don't get any of it. It just disappears. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where I was watching a video about plot holes, and a big thing was like, if something doesn't happen on screen, does that necessarily mean it's a plot hole, or do you just use your imagination to fill it in? And unfortunately, some things you just fill in. Like if a character's outside, and then in the next scene you see them inside, you go, oh, they walked inside. But if like...
Kuleshov effect.
If Batman gets out of a hole into a completely... secluded city that was only had one point of entry, and he had zero money and no resources. How did he do that?
How do you get back to Gotham?
Yeah, how did he get back to Gotham? That's not just, oh, you just assume he got back to Gotham, but you're like, there's 100 questions of like, how did that happen that need to be answered to maintain a sense of verisimilitude, and like keeping the reader in. And unfortunately with Jen, oh, he did his training in those months where everybody thought they were feuding and not talking to each other. But unfortunately, it robs you of any of his challenges, any of the ways it impacted him during that time, and growing with him. And Will's completely right. You get attached to characters and people through hardship, and all the hardship is just gone. We don't see any of that. And instead we go from him being like the last time we see him is being like, I can't believe you put us in war and I'm a useless thief. And the next time you see him, he's pulling off a great, really cool heist.
It's one of the ways that, again, this book, like, it feels like a first draft in certain ways. And like, again, she's really talented writer. This book succeeds in the grace notes where it fails in the broad strokes. Again, mixed metaphors, but I'm an artiste. I can do that.
Yeah, you can.
And so that's one of the things that it frustrated me throughout the book, because, and the other thing is it robs you of bonding with the character, but also it robs the book of the ability to tell themes, because there is not a coherent journey to Jen, I always want to say Jen's arc, but because of that, it can't tell a theme through it. So, again, Jamie Lannister, it's telling a theme of what is our identity, how is our identity applied. If our identity is too brittle, what happens when it breaks? This is something that's very prominent in mental health, is that you don't want your identity to be too brittle, because then when it breaks, you collapse. Like, you want to diversify how many friends you have, how many hobbies you have, your identity as a whole. Like, if this podcast goes away, cool. I still video edit. I still have Warhammer miniatures. I still have a rest of the life. But if I have spent all my life focusing on this one thing, and it's the only thing that gives me worth, which it should be for Jen. It's mentioned that his cousins used to beat him up and he was alone. And the only reason he could really do stuff was because he was a thief and could steal stuff and put it on altars. And like, this is his one skill. This is the thing that defines him, or should define him. And so, like, it would be so interesting to say, like, okay, in how he rebuilds himself, what does he focus on? What does he find important? And what does the book say about what you should find important?
And there is a very easy answer to this. What if, in losing his identity as the Queen's thief and a successful thief in that skill, he's like, fuck it, I'm going to go after the only other thing I want.
Oh, yeah, which we'll get to in a little bit.
And create a new identity for myself. Like, that's a great way, because this book is going to pretend a couple points that Jen is stealing stuff like a thief, but he's not. What he's actually doing is military strategy.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
Yeah, like, and
like
the book's
reconnaissance.
like, yeah, he's doing not only reconnaissance, but also like, oh, this person is a problem for our, like, and we need to cripple this thing. So let me go do a military sting operation to deal with this. That's not thievery. Like, and I'm going to describe the first one for you, because it's here. This is the moment, okay? The next time we see Jen, after the period of him being a mopey and, like, the Queen of Attolia, so throughout all of this, the Queen of Attolia is like, how's the thief doing? Is he okay? How's that bastard? And everybody's like, he's just in his room. And she's like, has anyone verified that he's in his room? And she's like, everyone's like, we can't tell, we're just using our spies. And so she's like eagle-eyed after Jen, and like, she's also now in a war. So we also getting descriptions of the war. But Jen shows up in Soonest to the Magus and is like, hey, buddy. And the Magus is like, what are those explosion sounds? And Jen's like, oh, just your warships. And the Magus, I have to state, there was another scene where the Magus comes back, or when the Magus came back, he went back to Soonest and was like, yeah, we don't have to worry about Eugenides anymore. He's not a threat.
By the way, the Magus is also a great character because he's like on the bad side. Like you can tell the author doesn't like Soonest that much, but like he's such a patriot. He wants what's best for the continent and his city, even when it puts him at odds with the other main characters. And that, like, again, that is something I've always want from books instead of mustache twirling. It adds so much depth and reality, and it honestly makes his and Jen's interactions funnier because
Yes, it
like the
is.
Magus is just like over his shit a little bit.
It's great. I love it. And this scene is a great example of that. And basically what Jen has done is he's blown up the navy of Sunis, their biggest asset for war timing, like the biggest thing they had.
Warfare.
And warfare. The biggest asset. Okay, he blows them all up. They're gone. And he steals the Magus and he frames the Magus to make it look like the Magus has been working for Attolia this whole time, which forces the Magus to come with him because otherwise he's going to get like beheaded as a traitor. And unfortunately, the King of Sunis is not a smart nor discerning man and acts from positions of passion and emotion, so he would have been dead. Because like the Magus is like, I'm not going with you after you've done this. Fuck you, Jen. I thought we were friends. And Jen was like, that's until you told your king to go to war with us because we were weak because I wasn't a threat anymore. And he was like, touche, touche. But basically, Jen's like, you have to come with us. We've painted you as the traitor who's done all of this. So and the Magus is like, fair point. The book is going to tell you this is a heist. Like this is a thievy heist. Like this is the thing a thief does. No, this is a military sting operation. They've blown up
This
shit.
is SEAL Team 6. SEAL Team 6.
This isn't like, oh, there's an item I want, go steal it, get in and out without nobody knowing you're there. In like the littlest. Like, no one should even know it just happened until well after the fact. No, this is grand. This is military strategy. Those boats are a threat. The Magus being in Sunis is a threat, and we want to get him out of there because otherwise Sunis is dumb.
It's more ninja shit than it is like he stole something of importance. Even the big deterrent to Sunis attacking was like, oh, Jen could come in and kill him, which actually would be an interesting conflict because Jen, up until about halfway through this book, is very against killing people. So that's actually kind of an interesting, like, oh, there's a sword of Damocles, but the sword won't actually fall because it doesn't want to. Kind of that could have been an interesting conflict, but it is not explored at all. But even then, that's not a stealing thing. That's an assassin thing. So it's like...
It's interesting because I would have liked it if the book had explained that that's what the Queen's thief actually is. It's not just this, like, hoo-hoo-hoo thiefy position, but it's actually like master of spies, master of
whispers,
espionage, like that kind of
War.
Stuff. Exactly. Like if it was that kind of vibe and it was like assassination attempts went through the Queen's thief, all of that stuff, and he wasn't the only guy, and there was because in that case, yeah, that makes sense why he, number one, understands military strategy outside of... And, like, the book's going to be like, well, his dad wanted him to become a soldier for most of his life, so he had to learn military strategy and sword fighting. But it just... It doesn't work, especially when...
It doesn't play, really.
Yeah, because, like, Eugenides has a huge identity conflict, and this would be such a cool moment of him being like, okay, so I can't do those quiet thieving missions because I'm missing a hand, but I can do this other thing. And if it has been like voiced that way, like, hey, I can't do this, but I can take a group of people because I was a thief, I know the layout of these places, I know the schedules, I can do spy reconnaissance because the skills I had as a thief play over to be a spy. Let me do that. Let me do this. And having the scene where he pitches it to Edis and says, this is my plan, this is how I'm going to work towards it, and her being like, yo, that's well outside the bounds of, like, thieving. Like, you're not just stealing the
trolling that you essentially is the thing you like to do, is troll nobles here and in other countries.
Like, that's not what it is, but, like, this is how I can be useful. Like, I'm probably never going to be able to, like, go into another thing, pick, like, a complicated lock that I need two hands for. Like, I'm not going to be able to do that stuff anymore, but I can do this. Let me do it. Like, those are those scenes that would have really coalesced and brought the book together really well. But anyway, So he steals the Magus, and the Magus is treated very well. He's like a nice prisoner of war. Like they set him up in a nice hunting lodge. It's all good.
They go to see the Magus. The Magus is, yeah. They tell a story that was like, it was weird because it had no point to the novel, but also I liked the story. It's sort of a
I like the
different
story too.
Persephone and Hades kind of thing, and I was like, oh, I like this. I ship it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I shipped it too. It was great. I loved it, and I think it's supposed to be the choice of like choosing to marry. Like the book's like, but it doesn't land
Yeah,
really well.
it's just not quite equivalent, but yeah, again, she's a talented storyteller. I liked hearing it, and it's not too long. This whole time we keep getting shots back to Attolia, where Attolia, she's kind of like wondering what's going on with Jen, and you kind of get the sense that like she's kind of thinking about him a little bit too much. You also get that like the Medish ambassador really thinks she's an idiot because she's a woman. And the whole time you're like, oh, you stupid nerd. She's great. We know she is. But it's like, it's still well done. He's ingratiating himself. The idea is that the Medes can't attack any of the three countries unless one of them asks them in because of powers on the continent. And so you keep getting those throughout. You also get some of the backstory of Attolia. I don't know. You get it at several points. Basically, she, like, her father was weak, and then she was going to get married off to this guy who was terrible, and then she poisoned him. And then when she showed up the next day and all the barons were like, we've decided this is who's going to marry you, she has him killed with a crossbow because she's a badass bitch. And the idea is she went from being like this kind of person who was going to be sold off as chattel, and she was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that for my life. I want to take control of things. And so she and the thing is, Attolia is a boss bitch. I loved Attolia as a kid.
Great.
I still love her. I love the contrast of...
She gets better.
She gets better as the book goes on. Again, by adding depth, not by retconning. It's mentioned a couple times that, like, yeah, she sometimes murders people in terrible ways, but she kind of has to. And then also sometimes she just mutilates their bodies after the fact, because, again, she needs to show her barons, who are always looking at her weakness, like, no, I'm not weak, I am strong. And there's a really interesting contrast with her and Eddis. Because even at the beginning, when Eddis first became queen, Attolia showed up and was like, look, you got to do all this shit. They're going to hate you. You got to plan. You got to be paranoid. This is how you be a girl in a man's world. And then Eddis's country is like just very chill and they all like her, which I actually really liked because I think it says something, about femininity and what place do you carve out for yourself in a man's world? And there would be a lot of bitterness in Attolia that that Eddis didn't have to do all of that. She got to just walk in. She had a loving
court, and people always supported her and at no point questioned her authority. I agree that bitterness worked really well, and it made the two of them at the end of the book. The two of them are eventually going to interact, and it just added a lot to it. And it's great because Eddis herself acknowledged she's the one who tells you about when Attolia came and told her all of these things, and then she's like, "I think she hated me that I never had to use her advice." And you're like, "Oh." You guys are from completely different backgrounds, and Attolia is just great. Like everything, how she holds herself, her facial expressions,
down to the fact that she feels very lonely, but her servants actually really like her. You get the sense, and people do like her. She just can't really see it. And I actually like where this will go in terms of her character in the last fourth, but we'll talk about it more as we get there. So I can't remember what happens. There's some bullshit with like who controls what, and some countries move here or there. And then Jen is like, Jen has now become like dark-eyed and hard-eyed, and he's become like, oh, this isn't the Jen of his youth. At some point, again, we don't really get to see any of that happen on page. And then what sets off his decision?
I'm just gonna skip to that. So
but something sets off his decision to do that, and I can't remember what.
He has a conversation with there's a point where Eddis is gonna ally with Sunis. Attolia finds out about the Magus, and then somehow it gets back to Sunis that the Magus wasn't actually a betrayer, but he just got kidnapped. And I can't remember. You're right. I can't remember what the inciting incident is.
Something
But
sets off, yeah, get Jen to be like,
I can't remember what it is that happens right before this. But there's a point where Jen goes to the Queen of. Oh, everybody starts talking about what the Queen of Attolia is saying about Jen, and
yes,
there's a bunch of court.
Chris M says
Yes.
someone jokes that
Oh,
Attolia catches him, then she'll cut off his other hand and tongue and blind him.
yeah.
Yes, thank you,
And
patrons.
he hears it because like it's one of those those moments at a party where suddenly it's quiet and everybody can hear what you just said. That happens to a group of nobles who are talking shit, and Jen hears it, and he kind of like seems to have a huge panic attack about it. The Magus like literally hears him screaming in his sleep. We get that scene. And then he basically just goes to the Queen of Etis and is like, I need to go away for a bit. I'm terrified. I'm very scared. I can't stop thinking about this. I need to just excuse myself and calm down. And can I please just go away for like 10 days and just seclude myself? And she's like, you're asking me to let you run away. And he was like, I'm asking you to let me get my shit together because, like, it would do us no good for me to have, like, a very public breakdown.
Vacation days. I will talk to HR about it. I'm your queen's thief.
She's like, I will give you your 10 days of allotted PTO. So go do your stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And he comes back. And when he comes back, there's a meeting where they're all talking about, like, they're like not a board meeting, council meeting.
Yeah, it is like a board meeting though.
Yeah, it's a council meeting where they're talking about the state of the war, and Jen like attends these, but he can't sit at the table, so he's just like leaning like nonchalantly in the back, and they're talking about like they're in a really precarious situation. Attolia and Sunis are at a point where if they decide to band together, it would be really bad for Etis, or if the Medes help out Attolia, it's going to be a really shitty situation because then Attolia would have enough power to get rid of Sunis and Etis, and then the Medians would have a strong foothold, and it would go downhill. Everyone's like, what do we do? What are our options? And Jen's like, I have a plan. And everyone turns and is like, oh, what's your plan? And he's like, so I spent the last 10 days going to this tiny little seaside town where the Queen of Attolia has been by herself, away from her armies, and nobody really knows she's there, and it's also like kind of secluded. So she's there with like 50 guards. I say we go in and we kidnap her. And the Queen of Etis is like, I let you have your vacation days, and this is how you use them for heckin' danger? And he's like, it's worth it. Like, Danger is my middle name.
And it's also like he's like, I'm terrified. I'm terrified she's gonna kill me. I need to face this fear. And then the book does this thing where it again is really ambiguous with its verbiage. So you all know that they have a plan, but you don't know what she really wants you to have a moment where like, oh, that's what they were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's like, oh, Etis is like, he's like, there's only one way to end this. And Etis is like, are you sure you want to do this? And you think that they're talking about like killing her or capturing her. And no, we'll find out later. No. It's a different plan.
Again, this author loves to be like, oh,
which I actually find a little endearing as an author.
I found it really endearing in this book, especially this one in particular. I thought this was the best of the things that happened. Some of the other ones were a little too obvious, and also hurt the book. Removing where we see him like training montage, dealing with his stuff, and then just going like that hurt the book. Where I think this works. My argument I'm going to make is this should have happened way sooner. This whole thing should have happened way earlier.
Oh yeah, because she's so much more interested in it. She's so much more interested in what will happen after this point.
And it's just so much more engaging than all of the other stuff that happened beforehand, and we still could have learned about that stuff. But anyway,
Angry Otter says the author hears Pink Panther music as she writes, which is so funny.
That's exactly what happens, and she's just like, like.
It's so funny. It's
so funny.
Basically, Jen comes up with actually a pretty clever plan of how to get across the river through sluice gates, and they take some cannons with them, which later you'll find out are wooden cannons, but it didn't say it in the narration, and you're like, okay, what? All right, whatever. The part of the problem is that the book wants to skip viewpoints, but it wants to have the reveal moments in other people's viewpoints that should, but the knowledge should happen in the person's viewpoint we were before. So like we should know these are wooden cannons from Jen's point of view, but we want the moment from Attilia's point of view that she realizes they were wooden cannons and not real cannons. So it like that's part of what we were talking about, the Pink Panther tendencies.
And I would make an argument that in a lot of moments that actively hurts the book. Like it, and it just makes it so you're like, but like I was there, we were there, they were lifting the cannons. You just chose not to write that they were wood. It's like if a camera, like if somebody was filming something and they just edited over the cannons, and then afterwards they were like, here's the real footage, and you're just like, why did you do this? They like get everything down, and it's him with like a platoon of Odyssean soldiers, some of which are his cousins.
That's one of the funny things is that Oedipus has like a ton of cousins, and at one point he's like, yeah, we're all cousins theoretically, but we have people who keep track of the bloodline so we don't get too interconnected. So it's always his cousins are doing this or that, or at court doing that, and it's actually kind of a funny little, it gives you a sense for the Oedipus as a very small country.
It's super cute, and like because there's it was with the Agapi girl where they were like, but could you marry her? And he was like, oh no, she's closer cousins to the queen. I'm related on my father and her father's side, and that is on her mother's side. So me and Agape are probably like real distant, but we're fine. Like we could get married, which is just hysterical. But anyway. And they have to, like, they go down the mountain, and like Will said, they use sluice gates, and they're sneaky and banking on it being like a season when people aren't around in places. And they basically, when they get down, and I'm going to describe what happens. I'm not going to describe how it happens for Attolia. I'm just going to tell you. But the text is being like, ho, 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 surprises, and expectations being thwarted. But basically... Jen and his people kind of camp out in the woods, and then they have a small group of them dress up as Attolian soldiers, and his one cousin really practiced his Attolian accent. And it's so funny because it reminds me of like Greeks and Cypriots both speak Greek, but the accent is so different that they have a really hard time. Like Cypriots can understand Greeks, but Greeks cannot understand Cypriot.
It's like if you've ever seen those like Irish people who are, like have such a thick accent that you almost can't understand what they're saying, or Scottish people. Yeah.
It's like that. And so that made me chuckle a little bit here because I absolutely imagine that these different city-states would have these different accents that would be really noticeable. But anyway, and they go in and they're like, oh, there's Odysseans here, and we have a messenger, Queen's messenger, but he's been killed, but we got his bag. We're here, give this message to the Queen. And the message is basically, oh, one of your barons betrayed you. And again, this is coming from Eugenides and the Odysseans. Like, stay with me, guys. And the message is, one of your barons have betrayed you and led in a group of Odysseans with cannons down the mountain, and they're here, and they're going to fight you. And she's like, oh no. Like, Attolia's like, ah, fuck. And also, please note, a little bit before this, she was in her room one day, and she noticed earrings pop up next to it, because she always wears this specific kind of crown.
Half crown
that has rubies in it, in honor of, even though she doesn't, Hephaestus is not her goddess, she styles herself after her. And these two ruby earrings are there, and she was like, God damn it, is that stupid thief around? Is he fucking around? Anyway, and so Attolia's like, oh God, what are we going to do? And she immediately goes into action. The Median ambassador is there. I'm just going to say it 100 different ways.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, do you need help? And she's like, you know, I'm going to deal with this. And then, like, they go up to the parapet, and they see... like the Odysseans and their cannons, and she's like, God, we can't deal with cannons. What are we gonna do? And she's like, okay, my head guard, we're gonna just surrender, and I am not gonna be here when we do. We're gonna surrender tomorrow. I'll let them know. And he's like, okay, wink, wink. And so Attolia uses a specific tunnel that her captain of her guard is aware of. She sneaks out
to get to a secret ship, and then she realizes the guard that showed her up only has one hand. Who could it be?
And she's like, God, it's you. And he's like, hello, Your Majesty.
But now he has like a cold look to his eyes, and she knows he's not the same boy that he was.
He's also taller. It's been 2 years since the last time they physically clapped eyes on each other.
It's been 2 years?
Yep.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah, it's 2 years. That like this book fast forwards every time it tells you shit that happens, and there's also periods where it's just months happen. It's been 2 years.
That's crazy. I did not catch that.
It also doesn't feel like it.
I thought it was like 6 months. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I did not think it was that long in terms of how long it feels.
That's why I said he's like 17 at the start of this and then ends up 19 at the end, because she was like, he's grown. And so like a 17-year-old going into a 19-year-old is the kind of vibe I thought we were going for here.
Yeah,
she's like,
no, okay.
He's larger, he's taller, he's more filled out, but he still kind of looks like a baby. And basically, like, he takes her to a place and he was like, you have a choice. You can either die here or you can marry me. And you're like, oh, this was the secret plot the whole time. And she's like, you hate me. And then he's like, actually, I love you and I've been in love with you for years. And you're like, as a reader, you're like, the fuck? Since when?
And he's like, yeah, my grandpa used to take me to your castle all the time as a kid. And I was just watching you. And one time I saw you dancing alone in the thing. And I was like, oh, God, she's hot and lonely. Oh, I know her so well. It's like stalker, essentially, logic. And Atolia's like, that's weird.
Yes, he continues to visit for years after. And he researches, he uses the Magus's archives and stuff to research into her, and like, is she just a cruel bitch or is she a crafty monarch doing the best with the hand she was given? And he was like, oh my God, she's a crafty monarch using the hand she was given. and he's like, and I love you. And she's like, that's wild. I don't want to marry you, you baby man child. Like, what is this? I am way old. And so like the vibe I get is she's like 27 maybe. Like, I don't know. The book is really
As a kid,
bad.
I thought she was like 40 because that's the vibe I get, but I think she's probably like 25. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think she's that old, but I always got the sense. But like, okay, here's the thing. I like the dynamic between the two of them in terms of the archetypes. I like the archetype of like the old cold queen and like the young whiny bitch like twink kind of like I like that, the old woman, the younger man.
Can we not say old? She's like 25, 28 at most.
The crone and the young man in his virility.
It's getting worse.
And their interactions are actually really nice in the book. The author has a very deft hand for showing Attolia's growing attraction to him without Attolia actually saying it or acknowledging it, in like very little gestures here and there that could be kind of read one way or another. And obviously she is like the ultimate hot bitchy woman. She's written so well in that regard of being hot and bitchy, and everybody knows that's my weakness. Even as a child, I was like, yeah. The problem is that I actually don't love how, again, broad archetype I like, Grace notes I like, middle portion of how they're developed I don't really think works. It doesn't really make sense. The book will try to grapple a little bit with him being afraid of her and that being kind of part of his attraction, almost, but it doesn't really, like, it knows it has to acknowledge that she cut off his hand, but it doesn't really know how that features into it. There's almost a point where it's like, well, one of the reasons he's attracted to her is because he can never stop thinking about her because she took his hand, and he'll never really stop being afraid of her. And like, that's an interesting fucked up idea, but it then is like, oh, but also he saw she was lonely.
And he's been in love with her for years prior to this point, so he's like in love with her and scared of her. And there's these two, and I don't get why by the end of this book, because by the end of this book she's going to be like, I love you too, Dad. And I don't understand for love or fucking money why. Like, I'm okay with her going, okay, this is a decent political, because like, to summarize the rest of it, basically he's like, marry me, you get to maintain hold of your country, we won't do anything, but we will work together and ally in this war, get the Medians out, and deal with Sunis, and we'll both be stronger for it. And she's like, you're gonna make me a puppet queen. And he was like, nah, and you don't have to give any tribute to it either, just make me, to Edis, make me your king, and let's be allies. And she's like, well, I guess I don't have a choice currently since it's between that and death. And like, there's a scene where like they're going up a hill, and she's like all moody and like going too fast, and he's like, maybe slow down. And there's a couple of cute interactions here that are like maybe the beginning of something, like, but like, and when I mean the beginning, I mean like because like we've already established that she's been preoccupied with Jen a ton, like partially fear and then partially out of her guilt, wanting to make sure he's alive. And so, like, a good setup for potentially being into each other, but, like, they have this, like, half a day of scene, like, where they're traveling together.
This is the last fourth of the book. Like, this should have been earlier if she was interested in it. We could have skipped so much, like, bullshit in the middle and, like, moping around. Yeah. Also, so Ambriata says, maybe the stuff we want is too heavy for YA. Yes, and that's why this book feels weird, is because the author decides, hey, let's start off this romance with a character who has to do terrible things for political reasons and lops off the other love interest's hand, and then wants to walk it back to YA land? Like, that's insane.
It's insane. There's no way to, like, the setup of this book, it should, if this is just a standard YA, the subverting this into a love story is doable if you want to embrace all the odd, ugly bits of it, but wild for a YA story. And which is why I guess it wasn't the focus, because what we get is like a really rushed idea of a love story, but like this is the heart of this book. This is what this book is about and leading to, and what she's interested in. And it should have happened a third of the way, and we should have had a third of build up like any classic story, and then it should have started here, and it should have been the case like maybe the thing was the Medians actually did a coup, and he was trying to do a thing but then realized that the Medians were going to kill her, and so now initially it was supposed to be, we're forcing you to marry me, but then it becomes we need to keep you alive so we can get Attolia back, and she's like help me get my throne back, my country back, maybe I'll consider marrying you, like or I'll see if I'll ally with your country, and like the marriage is off the table. And then throughout the plotting and machinations and getting to know each other over the course of the rest of the book, then they like and then we find out that he'd been in love with her the whole time. Again, kind of stalkerish, but then we get to actually see her fall in love with him in a developed way while still having all the political machinations and some drama.
That's what this book wants to be and yet isn't. And so, like, yeah, that's one of the things I talk about, is that, like, it has these really heavy themes, and the writing is very adult, and then the mid-level plot is off. It doesn't match. So basically, they get captured by the Medes, who then show up and are like, oh, you stupid woman, we got you. And Attolia has to play along like, oh. And again, the author is like, oh, is she going to betray Jen? Is she not? And like that happens for a while. And eventually the Medes are going to go to battle with the Odysseans because they came to save Jen. The thing is, like, this whole part is basically just Attolia's point of view. Jen isn't even around at all, which is, like, again, one of the ways this book hops ships. And, like, it's okay because Attolia is such a badass character and so cool. But it's also not okay because, like, you lose track of Jen and his growth. Because, again, part of this book is going to insist that this is sort of about him and his growth, and some of the emotional moments hinge on you caring about him. And basically, the Medes, at the very last moment, she's like, oh, you stupid Medes, I have actually been playing you this whole time. You gave me a lot of gold as a gift. That means I don't have to give it back. I actually know that your emperor is dying of like Tethys or whatever, and you know, so you guys don't actually have time to invade us. And also I set it up so your army is going to get slaughtered here. And it's a very nice moment because this whole time you've been like, what's going on with the Medes? Is she doing an act with him? And so it's like a crowning moment of awesome as the TV trope. It's great because Attolia is great, works. And maybe this whole book should just be her.
And then exactly, it should be. I will happily make the argument that this book would work better completely from Attolia's point of view. And having her interact with Eddis, and like this whole thing happens. She ends up in Eddis because the Medians take over her. Like there's so anyway. The other thing that happens is Eddis and her kind of have an interaction. So the first is them being like, so are we doing this? Are we like, yeah. There's a point where Eddis was like, your army did a great job, just yeeting themselves off the field. So we had direct access to the Medians. And they have a really nice conversation that gets a little bit tight at one point. And there's literally a point where Eddis is like, so where's my cousin? And she's like, oh yeah, no, he's still locked up. I forgot about him. And she's like, you forgot about him? Like, everyone else got released and he's just locked up. And she's like, oopsie doopsie. And they go back, and there's this moment where Attolia, so like they defeat the Medians, yay, woohoo! Now they just have to hammer out, and this is what Will was saying, where there's a climax that feels like the climactic point of the book, and then like it keeps going for a bit longer, and this is that. We have this big battle, this moment of triumph, the moment of awesome. And then the book is like, now we have to hash out the marriage agreement and the uniting slash allying of our two countries.
There's an important scene before that where when she forgot that Jen was in prison, she goes to look for him and she thinks he's dead when she first looks at him, and she's sad. She's like, oh no. And there's in a sense that what she wants from Jen is someone she can trust. She wants what Eddis has in terms of someone who is on her side and she can like trust in that way, and she's sad that he's dead. And like again, this kind of works and kind of doesn't. It works as a scene, but it doesn't totally work within the greater context of like, this has happened for 3 days. You know what I mean? And like Jen has all these reasons to like her, but like if we assume the stalking part, but like she doesn't. So why does she like him so much? And so, you know, and at that point she's like then committed. There's also all this stuff people really love about some ruby earrings she used that he gave her as a stalker to signal that she was on his side. It's very clever. It's another time the author is like, but see, if you were paying attention, and so, yeah. They go to Attolia, they try to hammer out a plan. She's being real fucking weird and cold. And eventually they realize it's because, like, oh, she doesn't believe Jen can really love her because she cut off his arm. Which is a fair fucking point, and one not really explained. I kind of feel like maybe what Whalen Turner was, like, doing a little bit of wish fulfillment of, like, what if this older queen had, like, a hot twink who was after her? You know what I mean?
And the thing that would have worked so much better as a, like, romance and for both characters as far as growth is, like, if he did, like, he had loved her when he was younger, and then she did this thing to him, and then he, like, hates her, but he's still kind of, like, overly focused, and they both hate each other, but are overly focused on each other because of all of the, like, negative feelings. And then over the course of, I don't know, like, maybe an entire book that this should have been, they get to know each other, they work together, and they begin to see those things about each other that like they didn't have, and he's able to put current her into context of the stalking he did when he was younger, and blah 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 blah.
That would have taken more time though, and would have been a better narrative actually. So what happens is he's like, no, I do love you, and she's like, you idiot, even the gods something something, and we find out that
so they're trying to get the marriage, and they were like, oh, we're gonna need a altar.
Oh right, this is what happens.
You have to consecrate the marriage on an altar for Hephaestus. And she was like, absolutely, I will not, number one, erect an altar for that goddess, nor will I are we sacrificing anything upon it. And there's this whole scene where they have a interaction. So prior to, I think it's prior to this, Eddis goes and talks to like our homeboy Jen is like, yo, cousin, please go talk to her and tell her I actually like her because disruff. And Eddis is like, I shouldn't have to be a matchmaker, but I'll go do this for you, bro. And basically gets Attolia to kind of agree to the marriage. And then this next hiccup is, okay, we've agreed to it. We've agreed to a bunch of stuff. And now she won't have a altar erected. And they're like, but you have to. She's our main goddess. And so they go to see her in her throne room. And she's like, no, I'm not erecting anything to those gods. They betrayed you multiple times. Number one, the goddess Moira came to me and told me you were in my castle and you were fucking around and specifically had me put those board up between those two olive trees to fuck you. And second, the reason everything went to shit and I was captured, because like when he first steals Attolia, the Medians somehow find the exact location where they are and get her back and like that whole thing. And you find out that actually Moira also appeared to fucking the ambassador and was like, ha ha ha, this thing is happening. Do with that information what you will. And so she's like, the gods betrayed you. And he's like, oh my god, that puts into context so many things. I thought I'd made a mistake, but no, apparently my gods have just forsaken me. And previously, because of what happened in the first book, you were like, the gods like Jen. They're doing him a heckin' you're a good boy. And so he's like, now I'm a bad boy. But not in like a cool, fun, sexy way, but in a sad way.
In a sad way, yeah.
So he gets a little goat, and he goes to a specific room that he's going to use as his place, as an altar, and he sacrifices, and he's trying to commune with the gods. And Moira comes to him and is like, buddy, you're
They're
like,
gods.
They're gods. You can't just summon them. They're not gonna. And he was like, no, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then a different goddess appears and is like, what you doing here, buddy? And he's like, why did you do this? And he's like, the goddess is like, but did we betray you? Like, really?
How did this all turn out?
It seems like it's going really well. Like, perhaps if you hadn't done that, then you wouldn't be in this position. And perhaps if we hadn't done this, you wouldn't have gotten those. And basically, the gods are like, we worked things out the way we needed to, and unfortunately, you had to get your hand cut off in the journey of it. And there's a point where the goddess is like, what would you have given up to have your hand instead? Would it have been your eyesight? Like, would it have been your freedom? And the implication is that of the potential futures before him, that this was just one that led to an ultimately good, like, the implication is the gods, they were watching out for their boy. They just also had to fuck him a little bit at the same time. And he also gets a vision of the sacred mountain. It's a volcano. That exploding and just decimating everything. And he talks to his cousin, and his cousin's like, oh yeah, I've gotten that. I've had that dream too. Like, what a world. What she actually says is, we have time to prepare. But anyway, I'm getting there. We're so close.
It's true. And basically, then Attolia shows up and is like,
yeah,
Attolia
she's basically like, so I'll build that temple. And he's like, yeah. And like, they basically have a conversation that's like, but do you actually love me? I love you. Do you trust me? I trust you. And like, she's like, what do you want? And he was like, nothing. You're my queen. And she's like, oh my God, he called me my queen. And I just want people to inherently acknowledge that I am the queen without having to fight for it. She doesn't say that, but that's the implication.
That's the
of why
vibe.
that's important. And then like, it ends with them going, I love you. And you're like, oh, okay. Then that's the end of the book. Like, congratulations. That's the end.
Okay, so here's the problem with this, is that Jen's faith has not been a theme throughout this book. This is not something that was a big part before his hand got cut off and like he focused his life around it, or his hand fell off and then he was like, okay, but the gods are going to take care of me from this point on, or like he just has had no real relationship with his faith. It's even mentioned at one part that he kind of just gives to a lot of gods because he thinks it might be kind of useful. And it's not something where it's really integrated into his character and something he believes in and guides him. It's just like, oh shit, they betrayed me. I don't get what the book is trying to say with this whole religion aspect of it.
You're completely right. And because the only time he's only really been believing in them for 2 years, because at the end of the first book, there's a moment where the gods are real. And he's like, oh shit, this is real. And again, as we mentioned, the goddess Moira came to him and was like, stop whining, you little bitch, earlier. And so the idea is, at the end of the first book, the gods have helped him out in several different ways. Like, there's a point when he has the gift of Hamaeathys, that they help him. And so there's the idea that he is kind of like God chosen. And in that moment, he feels like unchosen, I guess. But the problem is, it doesn't impact him enough on a day-to-day basis, and he never thinks about it ever. And again, nobody else really believes that the gods are there. Like, there's even a point where they're like, ever since they destroyed Hamaeathys' gift, it's really easy to just pretend the gods are just concepts again.
Yeah, just not around.
And so it's really wild that, because like, again, he starts giving earnestly in his to the different altars of different gods after the first book, but again, we don't see it as a hugely
he mentions it
thing.
right at the end. So that's the thing again about this book. Just it's going down a stream and it keeps jumping boats and it can't figure out which one it wants to follow. And so like that moment doesn't hit, and like that's again the problem with this book is it's a very unfocused, and I can see why this is such a popular book because it does have like I was looking up covers for it, and like there's a lot of fan art for it, and I get it. It has a strong ship at its center. A boat it jumped to. I should have been using ships that whole time.
Yeah, you should have.
And so, like, I understand people like the characters. Again, I like the archetype of the characters. I like the old hag with, like, a young twink.
Oh my god! None of those things are true! Everything he said in that statement was a lie.
I get why people like it. They're charming, but, like, the book itself doesn't really work. It's betrayed by the fact that it's a YA book, and yet it wants to deal with, like, really serious themes. And it doesn't have a solid arc for Jen to go through. It has a better arc for Attolia. It really kind of, and again, I don't mean this in the way that, I don't mean this in the demeaning way it sounds, but it feels a little bit like older woman fanfic, again, of like, oh, I really like Attolia. As I started writing her, I've started seeing a lot of myself in her. What if she got a hot twink? Like, that's kind of, I keep calling it twink.
Why do we keep using that word?
I find it funny because I know a little bit about gay culture.
But it's just not even remotely accurate. I don't think that word thinks what you think it means.
He's young, he's skinny.
Is he engaging in more,
I meant appearance-wise, and we don't know. We never get. It's a children's book. We don't know what. We don't know how that works out.
He's a himbo more, I would say, than like he's not beefy.
He's more Bishwin, is actually what he is.
Bishonen, yes, absolutely.
That's actually what he is. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's my feelings on it. I enjoyed reading it. I love that it moved fast. I was actually interested in what happened. I like military history. I think in retrospect, I'll forget a lot of the pacing issues and focus issues and just remember the characters and having had a good time with them. I'm not really that interested in reading the third one, though, especially because it's mostly not about Jen, from what I understand.
What? It's not about him having to become the King of Attolia and earning his place in the court and making people, like, respect him?
It is, but I think it's told from the viewpoint of, like, his bodyguard, mostly.
I hate it.
I don't know. It could be good. I just don't...
Because I was interested until a second ago.
We'll see how this video does. The first one did surprisingly well for such an old book, so maybe this video will do better than I think it is. And, you know, I'm not opposed to reading it, especially because they go so fast. But... I'm not super excited about it either. But yeah, what were your thoughts overall? Because I've talked a lot.
Again, a lot of my complaints that I had about the first book kind of carried over to here. I enjoyed this way more, and it was way more enjoyable to read, but I do think there are some, like, problems. And I think the nail on the head is this should have been an adult story, and it was crippled by the fact that it was trying to be YA at the same time.
Would you say that it was amputated?
Okay, stop it.
Oh.
Thank
Thank you all for joining us. Join our Patreon if you want to see if we eventually do the third book. And we will talk to you all later, our parasocial darlings.
Bye.